Hey guys, it's Phil coming back at you with another video. Today, I'm back. I'm excited. I apologize for being gone for a little while, but with all the holidays, with everything going on, everything was super duper chaotic, but I'm back. I'm more than excited to be back and to be able to serve every single person. So from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate everybody that was repping and rocking with me in the meantime. And from the bottom of my heart, it really, really means a lot. And since I've been gone for the last 3-ish weeks, 57 people walked in, kicked the exam in the chest, got the job done, did exactly what they wanted to. And it's amazing to me because a lot of people on this list were like, Phil, I'm not even really sure if you're going to be able to help. I'm not even really sure if there's hope for me. I'm not really sure if I'm meant to be a social worker based on the other people telling them what they need to do with and for their situation. But they believed in themselves, buckled down, kicked the exam in the chest, got the job done. They're living their best lives, and they're doing things that they didn't even think were going to be possible. And that's amazing to me. And they are as follows: Dan H., Chelsea S., Fire O., Catherine F., Miss A., Brittany J., Brittany F., Teresa S., Chelsea S., Adrienne C., Emily H., Sylvia W., Kelly D., Rebecca P., Sam H., Dana B., Yokosta A., Arlise W., Caitlin H., Mari G., Kristen H., Rashid R., Jeff S., Nicole K., Maria C., Madison L., Alexa A., Mallory G., Jasmine A., Cedrine M., Miriam G., Joanna R.H., Bianca R., Renee F., Beatrice S., Marley N., Michael M., Kim C., Melanie S., Jennifer L., Chaola S., Katie B., Arnika G., Nadine J., Christine B., Margot M., Jenny A., Kristen J., Jeff W., Elisa W., Regina B., Frank L., Melissa C., Nikia B., Heidi M., Francis R., and KC. I'm so excited, man, because like I said, a lot of people walked in, weren't really sure what it was going to look like. Was it a lot? Am I going to be able to do this? This is my multiple time. I'm not really sure. And the most amazing part is people buckled down, believed in themselves, got the job done, walked in, did things that they weren't even sure were possible for them, and they did it, they did it, they did it, and they did it. And for those that are wondering, how do they do it? How can I get and rep and rock with you? The next upcoming study groups are as follows: 12-6, Freudian Theory; 12-13, Community Interventions; 12-20, Practice Questions; 12-27, DSM-5 Children; and 1-3, DSM-5 Adults. And if you want any information about any of those, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com or click the link in the description down below. And for those that are wondering, yes, I do still offer individual tutoring. It's just very, very difficult to schedule an appointment right now with all the holidays and stuff, and a lot of demand for it. So my schedule is booked into January already. But if you want to be put on the waiting list, that is okay. Just send me an email at berda24@gmail.com or click the link in the description. And I keep referring to the description. What is that? It is the thing under the title of this video that says view more. Click that. There will be a lot of information for that as well. And yes, I am doing another one-day course. It is going to be this Saturday, 12/5, starting at 11 a.m. Eastern time and going until they kick us out. And they're not going to be able to kick us out. Why? Because I'll be the host, and I will likely end around 7 p.m., maybe 8 p.m., maybe 9 p.m. Eastern time, because I go through a ton of topics and then I have a question and answer segment afterwards. So that way, if you have any questions and you want to directly interact with me, you can, as well as just with all my Sunday study sessions. The one-day course will be recorded, so you do not have to attend the session 100%. And if you're not able to attend at all, you can just view the recording. And the last recording was like 7 hours and 30 minutes, so be mindful of that. And if you're like, Phil, what the heck are you going to do during the one-day course? The topics that I will be covering are tips I find most helpful for people to pass, common reasons for why people fail, which often lead into the tips I find most helpful, but again, kind of reiterating a lot of things that people after passing have told me, as well as interacting with people and allowing for them to become the best possible version of themselves. We will be breaking down multiple topics such as subpoena versus court order, community interventions, medications, personality disorders. We will be getting into some human developmental theories. We'll be going over the acronym. We'll be going over this 5-step process that I find most helpful for people to break down the questions. Then we will get into 25 practice questions, and that is the most stressful part for a lot of people because the questions I write for these courses tend to be the most difficult that I can whip up because I just want to push people and be able to mold them into the best possible version of themselves, because I'd rather have them mad at me during that session and get punched in the mouth by those questions than to walk into the exam and get punched in the mouth and then beat up on themselves and say, what in the heck am I supposed to be doing? And if you want any information about the one-day course that is happening this Saturday, 12/5, starting at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. And that is probably the most comprehensive thing that you can get and has been the most successful and has helped the most amount of people pass their exams, because it just gives so much information and allows for people to be able to understand all the style and be able to practice and get the support that they want. And if you have known, Audible's agreed to sponsor both my YouTube and my podcast. So if you want to support me as well as support them, go to my Audible affiliate link at audibletrial.com/fill-in-the-gaps. Sign up for the 30-day free trial. It's the easiest way to support me, and it costs absolutely nothing because Audible is the one that is compensating me for that. And if you want to help me, again, go to my Audible affiliate link at audibletrial.com/fill-in-the-gaps. Sign up for the 30-day free trial. It allows for you to get a free book. And if you're like, Phil, what book would you get with your free book? There are a couple that I would recommend, and they are as follows: The Alchemist, Shoe Dog, Outliers, and The Body Keeps a Score. And each of those have different lessons depending on what you're looking at, because people want to advance themselves in every way that they can, but they always don't want to be social work related. So if you want to support me as well as support them, go to my Audible affiliate link at audibletrial.com/fill-in-the-gaps. Sign up for the 30-day free trial. Get a book, practice self-care. And Audible is just an easy way to get information on the go. So if you're busy just like me, then go and get that done. And like I said, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate all the support that you guys show me. Whether it's just watching the YouTube videos, going to the study groups, going to the one-day course, individual tutoring, sharing my name with other people. It just means so much to me. Sign up for the Audible affiliate link. It's just so amazing to me how big the Fill in the Gaps community is and how many people have passed based on repping and rocking with me in this situation. And if you're finding my videos helpful and you want to help other social workers be able to find me, give this a thumbs up, and that is right next to the title. Just hit the thumbs up. Takes no time. As well as, if you're not already, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just click down below, subscribe, click the bell next to it, because it'll send you an email every time that I upload. And there's going to be a free study group next month. So if you want, or I guess this month, if you want to be notified by that, make sure you subscribe, click the bell icon, because I'm going to upload a video on how to do that. And a topic that has been heavy on my mind, and a lot of times people have been like, Phil, I'm not really sure. And it was kind of inspired by an email that I received. And so shout out to the LMSW study group, New York Foundling. They've been repping and rocking, and they brought up a topic that came to my mind, as well as speaking directly to Vivian A. to provide some encouragement for her exam coming up, is don't let anybody rob your mind. A lot of times people are interacting with me lately and saying, this person told me this other person told me this, I've been doing this program, I'm trying to apply those strategies and techniques and jump into conclusions, and it's not really working. So if something is not working for you, or somebody is telling you that your style is not a good one, but you are finding positive results in your situation, do not let them rob your mind. The most important thing is that you do not get 100% on the exam. Do not shoot to get 100% on your exam. Shoot to give 100% of yourself in that exam. And what does that look like? That's you're following your process. You're following the things that have worked for you. Don't let someone demean you based on them interacting with you for a short time or trying to implement what has worked for them onto you. Why is that important? Because at the end of the day, if you do not walk into the exam and do 100% of what you think is right for you, you are not going to be able to walk outside of that exam and be able to reflect 100% on what had happened. And it's an unpublished theory of mine of people that fail by 10 or less blame themselves, and for people that fail 10 or more, they tend to blame the exam. And I'm speaking to anyone on that spectrum right now, is if you had failed the exam, it is not you not doing what you needed to do. It's the 170 questions that you saw that day, because the only thing that can dictate whether you pass or fail is the 170 questions. Do not let previous attempts, do not let practice questions. Key emphasis on practice. Why? Because they are created to allow for you to practice your routine and skills and talents inside of a controlled environment, so that way you can walk into the exam with those skills and talents, not with those exact questions in the back of your mind, not with the exact things in the back of your mind, but walking in and giving 100% of what you think is right for your situation into the situation and being able to get the job done. And that's where a lot of times people allow for people to hijack their mind, or they feel like, I'm just going to stuff a ton of ideas and a ton of strategies and a ton of techniques in a bag, run into the exam with it, and throw all those techniques and strategies at the exam. And the main question you need to be asking yourself is, what is the strategies and techniques and all the things that you need for your situation? Not for what your friend needed, not for what someone is telling you that you need, or if they're bringing and tutoring you to help on this exam and you're providing them the questions or you're giving them the materials to review with you, shame on you. Not shame on you to allow for them to hijack your mind to make you think that is all right, because you need to be doing and gaining something from something. And if it's hurting you and making you not feel as good as you wanted to, and there's a difference of, I'm not feeling good about it based on the fact that I was challenged, and I'm not feeling good about myself because this person is degrading me and taking something from me and not pouring back into me when I engaged in this situation to make myself feel more comfortable, confident, being able to walk into the exam and be able to kill it. But now I'm hurting and killing myself based on the fact that someone told me that what I originally thought was right for me is no longer correct. And again, there's a difference between somebody challenging you and pushing you and trying to mold you into a better version and somebody trying to kill you and make you doubt your abilities to be able to walk into the exam in the first place. That is what I'm trying to push and mold into the situation, is you do not have to be 100% repping and rocking with Phil to be able to walk in and do what you need to do. And that is where, even if I provide information in any of my videos or any of my study groups or any of the tutoring sessions, if you've tutored with me or if you attend the one-day course and it does not work for you, then good. Do not allow for that to say, I need to be this person on this thing, when you know yourself 100% better than I ever will. So do not shoot to get 100% of the questions correct, but be able to walk into the exam and say, I gave 100% of myself and what I thought was to be right in that exam, and I will learn, and I will not give up. I will continue pushing myself, but I will not let somebody that does not know me in particular, or is not listening to me, or not pushing and molding me into being a better person as a result of this preparation, then I need to cut it out. I need to cut them out, and I need to be able to focus and do what I know what is right for my situation, rather than just chameleoning myself into the situation and saying, yep, I blend in with this situation. I'm repping and rocking with this person, so I'll do this strategy in front of them. I'm repping with this other person, I'll do this strategy in front of them. So what is the important thing that you need to do here is be 100% you. Do not let someone hijack your mind. Don't let somebody hijack your situation, because your own efforts need to add up to what you want them to look like. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't reach out to us for assistance if you need to. But again, the key detail is that person needs to be pushing and molding you to a better possible version of yourself, and not just trying to build you up by giving you easy situations. Because as I stated before, I would rather have you get knocked out, get punched down, and feel terrible after one of my study groups, but walk into the exam and kill it based on the fact that you were pushed to a different level than if you were to walk in and feel good, be like, yeah, I can navigate and walk into this, and then the exam just clocks you out and you're not able to do what you need to do for you. So that is something that's been heavy on my heart, is do not let anybody rob your mind, because you know specifically what you need. And if that person's not pouring back into you and trying to take something from you, or you're supplying the materials when you're actually being tutored by somebody, then you need to reevaluate and say, what is this person contributing to me? And does this person actually benefit me in any way, shape, or form? And if not, don't do it, based on the fact that you would not have somebody that you care about go to someone for assistance and get something taken from them, or to have them regress further into their situation. You tell them, cut it out, don't do this, and don't allow for that situation to continue. And I care about every single one of you that is watching this right now, because like I said, from the bottom of my heart, it means the world to me. All the support that you guys show me, all the encouragement that you show towards my mom's situation, and all this stuff. And from the bottom of my heart, you guys don't understand how much it is a privilege for me to be able to help you guys become a better possible version of yourself, because you don't know how much you're actually helping me become a better person through this process. So again, do not let anybody tell you what you are supposed to be doing for your situation, because you know yourself better, you know your capabilities, and you may not be where you want to be right now, but that does not mean that you can't get there with adjusting and making small changes, not blowing up the whole system, but being able to make a small shift in the right direction to be able to make yourself get to a better situation than you would have otherwise. And like I said, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate every single one of you. If you need any information or have any questions for me, or you want to join the study groups or the one-day course or individual tutoring, the links are in the description, or you can send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. And the study group that you're about to watch is a free study group that I did in the past, and it's interacting with people that are struggling to pass their exams, as well as I had somebody come back, share their experience about how they kicked the exam in the chest. And if you had passed your exam and you want to let me know, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. I'll see you guys in the next video. Hope to see you Saturday. Hope to see you Sunday. And if you're taking your exams, walk in, kick it in the chest, do what you need to do, and get the job done. I'm out of here, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. And peace out, guys. Hi, I'm here to share my experience after passing in Maryland.
Hi.
How is it going?
Good. I'm so excited to be here. I'll try to be short and sweet, but so I had originally been scheduled to take my exam on March 17th, and that was the day they closed all the Pearson centers and everything, at least around me. So I actually wasn't able to reschedule since I didn't have the 24 hours notice. So I definitely, after that, had some trouble just like communicating with Pearson and everything. And I had gotten into kind of a little bit of a bitter place about my exam. So I stopped studying at that point. And Phil, your video about being encouraged to study during this kind of crazy time really brought me out of that place. So I ended up taking the LM on April 24th and passed. And I think a huge part of it was really knowing the distinction between, yes, understanding the content is super important, but what's even more important is the how to answer the questions on the exam. And so many, thank you. And so many of the questions are applications. And Phil, your videos just do such a great job of breaking down how to understand what the question is asking and how to stay on track, because a lot of these application questions have a lot to them. So just being able to break down all the pieces of where you are, like which setting, who the client systems are, and what is actually being asked was really important. So for me, the biggest materials I used were your videos and study sessions. I also used the APGAR text, Pocket Prep, and then I think the ASWB practice test and the Code of Ethics were really helpful too. Just in the ASWB practice test, making sure I had the attention span to kind of sit with everything. And so when I actually did go in to take the exam, even though I live in Maryland, the only open testing center around me was into DC. So it was a little bit of a hike, but I would say it's definitely worth it. I did have to wear a mask at the center, and it was kind of a lot more intense than I thought it may be. They did have to like check my sleeves, and I had to pat down my legs and everything. And I did have to like scan my hands and everything. I had to wear a mask during the exam. So I would definitely recommend wearing a mask while you're studying, because while I did that, I didn't wear the same mask that I wore on my exam date. So it was a little thicker and it was a little harder to breathe. So that threw me off a little bit. I think some of the things that are really important for me is just getting in the right mindset to take the exam. So one of my professors gave me the advice that no one fails the exam because they don't have the knowledge. They fail because they let their anxiety get in the way. So I really took that to heart. And I really took to heart kind of what Phil says a lot about being in the right headspace. So before I actually went into the testing center, I sat and read a couple posts from people about having passed their exam and just kind of putting good vibes out there. And that just helped me get in the headset of, okay, I'm going to be the next person who gets to say, yes, I passed my LM. I think, yeah, just going into it, just really get yourself into the right mindset. And time-wise, it was a little scary for me, but I did make sure that I was rereading questions because I had the tendency to go a little fast, especially when I was taking the practice exams. And I would be so worried about not having enough time that I would read the questions so quickly that I would miss words. And then when I would go back to the practice questions, I would realize I got it wrong because I missed like one key word. So when I took the exam, I just made myself really sit and read through the questions twice before I even looked at the answers. So I think that's everything, unless you have anything you want me to talk about, Phil.
So it sounds like, just to kind of like summarize it, like you weren't really sure how it was going to go, but the way that you practice is how you actually wanted to perform during the exam, and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
So walk me through the process of like, if someone asked you like, hey, I'm not feeling motivated, or I'm a little afraid to take the exam during this time, what would you say to them? Like, what are some words of encouragement for around that?
I say that's totally normal. This exam is super intimidating. And I think when you're feeling nervous or anything like that, it's because you understand that this is a big deal and the work that we do is a big deal. So you're just humble. That's normal. So I think the biggest thing is to just be kind to yourself. A lot of times you're not going to feel motivated too, but we still have to put the work in. So even if it's just bribing yourself, there were definitely days where I would just study for 10 minutes a day if that's all that I had in me. You're not going to be able to study for hours every single day. That's just unrealistic to expect of yourself. And if you have those overly high expectations and you don't meet them, it's kind of just going to get you down. At least that's what happened to me. So whatever you have to give, that's awesome. And just be kind to yourself, be encouraging to yourself of everything that you're putting into this.
Awesome. And any last things that you can think about that you would want other people to hear?
I think just, you got this. You guys are all going to do so awesome. And congrats to the people that already passed. But for the people that are thinking about doing this, go in and tell yourself, like, your worth doesn't depend on you passing the exam, but you're still going to pass it anyway.
And again, thank you so much for coming back and spreading positivity in a time where it's very difficult to find it sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you need anything, just reach out, okay?
Awesome. Thanks, Phil.
I miss passing by 3 points using TDC and looking for helpful strategies.
I feel I'm totally new to you. This is my first time in a group session with you, so it's nice to see everybody and hear everybody's stories. It's been really helpful for me. So I'm in Minnesota, and I'm going to be coming up on my 4th time, and my experience has been a little bit, I don't want to say different from everybody else's, but I feel like it's a little unique because I think my first time I went in, I was overly confident and I didn't study enough and I missed it by 10 points. And I had just used the ASW book and thought, yeah, I just kind of skimmed through that book. And I just was like, yep, I know this, and missed it by 10. So then I took a step back. I'm like, okay. And I took the 90 days and I went back and took it again. I used the APGAR book again. Thought that I felt confident and I missed it by 10 again. And so that was pretty disheartening. I changed my testing site because I'm like, well, I think there's some bad mojo at the testing site. I'm not going there no more. I'm going down to the city. So I ended up in the metro area here, Minneapolis area. And I signed up with TDC. I had read about that from some of the posts on Facebook that other people had used that, and this is before I had knew about Phil. And I used that, and that was really helpful, just listening to videos and audios and the way that that was set up and structured for me versus just reading a book. I get really easily distracted when I'm just reading that material. So I went through that, but then I again went into it feeling confident, and I missed it by 3 points. So I guess for me, it's been really difficult because I'm trying to do some problem solving in my head going, what am I missing? Is it test anxiety? I mean, my job, um, I'm in a management type position where they're kind of like waiting for me to get this license, but they're not pressuring me because I think they realize I've got some test anxiety because of that. But so for me, it's just, yeah, what am I doing wrong? And when I got my notice showing that I failed, my weakest area was the unit 2. If you guys are familiar with that one, the ABGAR book, I don't have my sheet in front of me to tell me what unit that is, but I think it's like assessment and treatment planning and everything that I've been doing for quite a while. So I'm kind of stumped. And so I'm reaching out to find out. I mean, I'm going through the TDC again and trying to find some things, but I'm almost losing confidence because I don't know where I'm tripping up, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So walk me through the process of what you did during the exam, and like what was your experience? What was your way of breaking down the questions, and what did you feel like you did well during that process?
Yeah, so the last time I took it, I felt pretty confident in answering the questions, but honestly, I didn't have a process of breaking down the questions. I read them twice, I read them out loud. Um, I felt like I had a good understanding, but I feel like I'm always picking the wrong out of the 2 questions, like the 2 that are left, I'm always picking the wrong one or something. So I didn't have a strategy in my head. I can tell you that. And then I think I just got some anxiety when I would come across a recall question and I wasn't familiar, like it would be a term that I'd never even seen before. And so then I didn't feel anxious, but there had to be some anxiety in there for sure. But just second guessing myself.
Okay. And it's always a pleasure to talk to people, and not in an odd way, but it's always a pleasure to talk to people that pass with 10 and less. Not that I don't enjoy talking to people with 10 or more, but people that fail by 10 or less often beat up on themselves. So that's almost an easier bag of, it's not a lack of knowledge or a lack of technique. It's a lack of recognizing that you're a human and it's okay not to know everything, and it's okay not to master everything. And I think you're closer than you think. 3 is like you can almost touch it. You can feel it. You can almost like smell what it's like to pass.
Yeah, I was pretty upset about that. I was just like, what? I thought, oh, I got to change testing sites again. Bad mojo there.
So my biggest thing for you is quit running from the situation, because you're close, and giving yourself credit is going to help bridge that gap. Because right now you're like, I failed by 3, it's all broken and I can't believe it. It's, you failed by 3, which means you were super close. So everything you were doing worked for you, reading it out loud, reading it multiple times. It's just, we need to polish it up to make it look a little different. So when you don't know a question, not throwing your hands up like I have no clue, but throwing your hands up like you're ready to fight because you prepared and the answer's on the page. So not just shutting down, but being okay in the moment of not knowing is going to help you be better equipped to pass in the next time. So my biggest suggestions
Sure.
for studying is to do the exact same thing that you did last time, just changing the second guessing and the way you're talking to yourself while you're doing it.
Okay. Yeah. I think, and then I had watched one of your videos too, Phil, on the strategies, to kind of go through the safety feelings and get that. I want to really get that in my head and have that down. I think just having some strategy as far as how I'm looking at those questions would be beneficial as well.
Okay. And like I said, you know what you need because you've made the changes to get yourself from 10 to 3. Like that is a huge improvement in and of itself. So giving yourself credit and saying, I'm doing exactly what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
I just need to change the way that I'm talking and addressing myself. And it's not the testing site that was the issue. It was the tendencies I had while testing that might have brought me down further. Because I'm going to congratulate you because you've grown. Like you've improved yourself, and it's difficult to reward ourselves when we don't actually accomplish our goals, but that's what's going to help you get closer is recognizing your progress rather than recognizing how much further you need to go.
Right. Yeah, and I think that somebody had asked what I got on my mock exams. I think I was in the 80% the first time around, and now I'm going through it again, and I'm not at that piece of the exam piece of that. But and then I took the practice exam, ASW, and I passed that. So, I felt pretty good. I'm like, okay, I got this. And then so to fail, I just was like, so what am I doing wrong? So yeah.
And it's little things. It's very, very little things. And it's not like what's wrong with what you're doing. It's if I would have got another set of questions, I might have killed it. And again, keep believing in yourself because what you're doing
Right.
is working.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. And if you need anything, reach out to me and I'll try my best to help. And if you are interested in attending this Sunday's study group, just reach out to me as well. I'll have you as my guest.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna join a few of those. I think that'll help a lot, just having some guidance for sure.
Okay. And
Thank you.
again, thank you for sharing your story. It means a lot.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks.
I passed a week ago, Tuesday.
Hey Phil, can you hear me?
Yeah, how's it going? How's it going?
Going well. So first off, I just want to thank you for allowing me to share and just your advice and your videos have really made a difference in my testing experience.
It's my pleasure. And thank you for coming back to share it. So walk us through what it was like to prepare and then ultimately walk in and kick the exam in the chest to pass.
So my journey kind of started about a year ago. I was studying off and on using different material. And so I first started studying basically just like content because I wanted to make sure that I kind of knew what may be on the test and not really so walk into the test blindsided. So I had been studying, and then starting in January, I said, well, I need to crack down because I really want to take this test. And so that's when I just started going at it, and I took a practice test. And so I did well, and I was like, okay, well, let me just keep going, keep going. I lost a little bit of motivation in March. And so that's when I started using the Don Apgar book, just making sure that I went through the content. And then after I did that, well, I was like, okay, well, let me just try to make sure that I'm in the right mindset. And so one of the things that I did was I pretty much reached out to a group that I'm involved in, and I was like, well, who needs or who is interested in maybe like an accountability partner, or who maybe wants, to get together and study. And so I found an accountability partner to kind of help me with my motivation, and just kind of went from there. I studied every day for the past couple months, a few hours a day, making sure that I went through content. And so during that time, you were suggested to pretty much start looking into like your videos. And so I started watching your YouTube videos and then actually listening to your podcast. And I was like, hey, I think this will really be good for me. So just walking through how to break down the questions, making sure that I know like what steps and what the question is asking me, really made a difference, and pretty much motivated me to just walk in there and just own the test. Like I had kind of in the past always had trouble with like my self-confidence and self-doubting myself, but just honing in on knowing like, I know this, I have been studying this for so long, and just boosting myself up, making sure that I'm listening to motivational music, just really putting myself in the mindset and just telling myself like, you're not going to go in here self-doubting, you're not going to go in here and just question everything that you've done so far. You're going to go in here, you're going to own it, and you're going to do your best, and at the end of the day, whatever happens is going to happen, but you have done your very best, and you're going to go in here and you're going to take it. And so last Tuesday, I went in there and I sat for my LM, and I passed it, and it was my first try, and I was so happy. Like, I can't even describe like the feeling that I had, because looking back on just taking other tests like the ACT, the SAT, and different tests during college, like, I've always had test anxiety, and I was like, I just cannot let that win. So I had to kill that self-doubt, and I had to just go in there, trusting and believing that what I did was going to work, and just knowing that I spent a lot of time practicing and going over the tools that you had given us, Phil. And so I said, this is going to be it for me. So went in there and passed it, and I was just so happy and grateful.
And what was that transition like of having negative self-talk or self-doubt, like beating yourself up during this process, to I'm okay with where I'm at? And if somebody were struggling with that right now, what would you tell them to like get to where you were of like acceptance, if you will?
I think this was said earlier, but one of the biggest things was giving myself grace, recognizing that I don't know everything. I may get some stuff wrong, and that's okay. I'm human. You know, we all make mistakes, and we don't know everything, but just making sure that I trusted myself. Like, it's been a journey, just trying to I think that was my biggest thing, just transforming my mind, and making sure that when the self-doubt would kind of like creep up, just stopping myself. And I even had to do that in the test, just when I would maybe like zone out a little bit, or not know the answer right off, I would just have to stop and say, you got this, reread the question, and just do your best.
And please keep doing that throughout the rest of your career, because a lot of times when we do things in life, we may have that doubt and say, I'm not sure I can handle it, or I'm not doing the right things. And it's like, but you are, and you're right exactly where you need to be. Well, thank you for coming back and sharing your experience. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And if you need anything else, please reach out.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Phil.
Took the test on Tuesday, May 12th, missed by 10 points. Here to learn helpful tips. Thank you for doing this.
This is Bobby. Hi.
How's it going? How's it going? Let everyone know where you're from.
Idaho.
So
the potato state, you know.
What was it like for you during the exam? Like, what was your process?
I initially didn't even worry about it until, because I figured 3 months to study would be good. That's what I was reading. And so I started it in, 2 months, I guess, in February, the end of February, you know, my last quarter. And I decided that I was going to just pretend like, because the only thing I had was my practicum. So, or my field experience. So what I was going to do is do my field experience and then what I would study normally. And I put a ton of study in for the past 3.5 years. So that was my plan. And then when the COVID happened, it was like, and everybody's tests started canceling, I kind of, got deflated, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so then finally, about midway, so like mid-April or something, I said, I've got to act as if, because they started talking about opening everything up. So I really only had like about 3 weeks to study. And so I took a ton of practice tests. I did TDC, I did pocket prep. There was online couple tests like that. And then, and I read cover to cover the ASWB book, which I really enjoyed. It was like, oh, I didn't know this. I didn't know this. This is awesome. And so, and then everybody kept saying, I'm a horrible test taker. I've never taken tests well. And everybody kept saying, you know, power of positive thinking. I said, I understand that. I positively know I'm bad at taking tests. They didn't buy that. But anyway, and so I kind of went that way. And I kept trying to study and kept, you know, like whenever I take a test, I know you weren't supposed to memorize the question. So what I was doing is when I would take a test, and I didn't do very well on any of them, but I didn't let that worry me, because if I didn't know the answer, I would go back and say, okay, here's the reason why it's the right answer under this condition. And then I would try to like learn the difference between preconditional and conditional, and you know, all that kind of stuff in the stages. So I kind of did that, and then I started getting really antsy because I got a letter from ASWB and said, well, we don't know if your test is moving forward. We just know it hasn't been canceled yet. So we would recommend that you call them. And I took it in Utah because that was the closest one, and it was about 3 hours away. And so I said, okay, I'll take it in Utah. And then 5 out of 7 days, nobody answered. And so I'm going to act as if it's on. And so I did, and I kept studying and trying to take more tests. And I mean, I would study one day, take some kind of test like pocket prep or something the next day, or, you know, and then I took the TDC final test like Saturday with practicing the test and stuff like that. And then I decided to do the 11 o'clock testing and I've learned that I study much better in the morning. And so I went with the 11 thinking, because I'd have trouble sleeping the last week or so. And so I just wanted to make sure that I would be covered. I got to the testing center like 8:30 or something like that. So I'm walking around and took a walk for about an hour and then studied a little bit more on the pocket prep and went in there. And yes, I had to wear the mask. Yes, I mean, it was one of those, if anything could go wrong, it did. So anyway, and then halfway through the test, it was okay for halfway through, basically after getting through. And then whoever was next door was either listening to a video or talking really loud. And I'm going, I can't hear. And he kept pointing to the micro or the ear things. And that just hurt my ears. And then I had to wear my glasses because my contact. And so then my glasses kept fogging up. It wasn't fun. But anyway, so I'm going, okay, I'm positive. I think I did really well. I really believe I'm going, you know, that I passed. And even before, and I was at a little over 3 hours and I hadn't taken a break or anything. And I'm going, should I go back and look? And I said, no, I'm going to trust my answers. And so then I went, okay, I'm going with it. Fingers crossed, push that submit button. And it said, well, I went. So anyway, so that was the process.
So looking back now, what were the positives of that process?
Start to finish or just the test itself?
The exam itself.
There was some things that I knew. I had no doubt in my mind because I had studied it, and it was like, oh, I know that answer. I know that answer. Oh yeah, that, you know, so those went really fast. And I read 90% of the questions at least twice and out loud, like somebody else had mentioned. And, but then there were just like, I don't know how many, several that I had no idea. So I went and read some study hints and, you know, it's like, when in doubt, do see, because I really did the dart throwing thing like you suggested. So, and then, you know, be careful of the polar ones, like yes, this answer is true. No, this answer, whatever it is. And then also look for like grammar and stuff, so if you're talking about an or a, and then you read the sentence. So they were just some suggestions that went in doubt. Anyway, so that was kind of what I did and learned.
So my biggest recommendation for you is to actually develop a process that you're comfortable with, because a lot of what you did was immerse yourself into a ton of questions and try to reverse engineer them, meaning like you looked at them, you got it wrong, and you're like, I don't really care what if I get it right or wrong. I'm just going to go to the rationales, and then I'll learn the information, and then I'm going to deposit it in the back of my head. So
Yes.
I would not suggest doing that for your process, because it might have caused you to not actually learn the information. And you were just like, as long as I rifle through the questions, I'll get the information. And it's like, we need you to be able to mobilize and to apply that information, not just get through it. And I would suggest doing a timeline that works for you. And I know you said 3 weeks was like the ideal, and then it went to 3 weeks. So then if you're going to make a change like that, you almost have to change and cut out things that you feel comfortable with and focus on the things that you may not feel as comfortable with. And you said test taking strategies. So when you're doing the test taking strategies, not just seeing if you got it right or wrong and then reading the rationale of why you got it right or wrong, but sitting down and saying, what could lead me to getting this correct? Because a lot of times the way that people study is, it doesn't matter if I get it wrong, because I can look at the rationale, deposit that in my back pocket, and if I see it again, I'm going to knock its teeth out. I would say sit with the questions, practice a routine, and whether you get it right or wrong is irrelevant, because if you got it right, understand why your process worked for you to get it right. And if you got it wrong, don't just run to the answer. Understand what about your process led you to getting it wrong. So that way you have more concrete guidance than, all right, I got it wrong. Doesn't matter. I have the answer. Now if I'll just throw it at the grenade at the test and it'll work.
Well, and the other thing that I've decided to do, on lessons learned as well, is I would spend 6 to 8 hours a day studying for when I was doing my classes and stuff. That was normal. Because my undergraduate is not in anything social work. So I basically started from scratch from day one. And so what I decided, where I only had 3 weeks and I did the crash course, and yes, that didn't work, that I need to someone else, I forget, but she said that she planned bare minimum every single day, whether it was 10 minutes or 3 hours, whatever it happened to be. It was a lot shorter time, but she did it every day. And I've already decided, one, that I plan on, my goal is to do at least about 2 hours a day. So it's not too long, but not too short. And my manager, my supervisor or whatever said, Bobby, I don't even want you thinking about the test, which I'm not doing a very good job at, by the way. But she goes, I don't want you to study. I don't want you to reschedule. I don't want you to do anything for 2 weeks other than go live your life, go have fun, go just reset your brain. You've been studying for 3.5 years. It's time to reset. And so I've kind of been trying to do that a little more, but not just hit and miss like this video and a couple pocket questions, but nothing like I was doing pocket prep questions. So that's what she said.
Is that what's going to work for you? Or is that what someone that wants to tell you what is going to work for you is going to work?
I have no idea. Because I even, we were talking and I meant to make it a joke, but it came out really harsh. And it was like, if I wouldn't have passed that stupid test, I could help you. Because at work, we're like in overload. And she's picking up all the overload as the boss, and she owns it, and she's a LCSW. And so it's like, and so anyway, so I'm not sure. What do you think? What are you saying? Where are you going with that question?
Because I'm a huge proponent of, you need to identify what works for you. And a lot of times people will give you feedback because they feel like that's what would work for them. And you need to reflect and say, is taking 2 weeks off to rest actually restful for me? Or is it going to make me feel like I'm behind and then I'm going to binge again?
Good point. Good point.
And trust me, I'm a person, you'll ask anybody, if I have a mission in my head, I'm obsessed. If somebody told me to take 2 weeks off of doing something that I wanted to do, I'm going to try and hide it and sneak it, and I'm going to overdo every single thing. Or if I did listen to them to appease them, when I get back into what I like doing, I'm doing it all. I'm doing it 24/7. Like, you're not going to stop me once I get back on the track. So I'm not saying that's what you should do, but if you're a person that's like me and needs to be doing something 100% of the time, then I would govern the amount of things that you're able to do, what you've already been doing. You're like, well, I'm going to do a couple of questions every single day to keep myself sharp. Good. I'm not saying to go full blown, but you still need to keep your skills as sharp as they can get if that's what works for you.
That makes total sense, because I've been sneaking a little bit here and doing the pocket prep here, and I'm going, okay, I'm not supposed to do that. Yeah, but, and then I saw your video. It's like, yeah, I'm going to do that. So I'm not doing a great job at that. And she even asked me, she goes, what do you enjoy doing? It's like, I've spent so much time, and one of my mentors said, Bobby, you're an overachiever. And I'm just saying that because that's a more positive than a workaholic or whatever, you know, and I do. I mean, when I got into social work program, I hit it hard. Or when I do a ton of soccer, I hit it hard and spend hours and hours and hours a day on it. So that what you said, yes, that's what I do. That's my personality for sure.
So that's where you have to hone in on your gifts, but make it manageable over time. Because when you're going to do something excessively, is it actually manageable? Or are you regressing yourself or hurting yourself, not physically, well, hopefully not, to where you want to go? And that's what I was kind of alluding to like earlier, is you need to make sure what you're trying to accomplish, the steps add up to it, because every single person can obtain something, but to maintain that amount of energy or object or objective is difficult. So I wouldn't suggest taking 2 weeks off. I would suggest managing and scaling it back to where your 3-month period was in your head prior to this. And that's what would make you feel comfortable, because someone tells you 3 weeks, it hones into your gift of being able to binge your life out. So sitting down and managing the process into more manageable steps, like partializing, if you will, of I want to take it in 3 months. What is the amount of time that I can do per week, not per day? No, per week, because things can get stressful and your schedule can get thrown off. What is the amount of time per week that I want to give myself for an allowance to get the job done? And then utilizing that amount of time over the 7 days or 5 days if you want to give yourself the 2 days off on the weekends or during the week, etc. So understanding what works best for you and telling the mentor and supervisor, I appreciate your feedback and that may work for you, but I have this goal in mind and I'm not going to stop thinking about something that I care about and love and want to accomplish until it's done.
And I do that all the time. So yes, that's excellent advice. Thank you.
Of course. And if you need anything in the process, just reach out to me. Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. I tested yesterday. Frown face.
Well, with me, this is the first time I failed a test in life. I have never had a failure at a test. I've tested less than A, but never really failed. So to me, it was like horrible. And when I got to the test center, it was like a shock because they weren't ready for me. So I had to wait there. The questions that I got were mostly recall. So it was memory. And then the materials that I had, I don't think were the best or the most adequate for me either. The test questions were totally different to the practice questions in many ways. So it was hard on me. But I just sucked it up and came home. What am I supposed to do? I didn't miss by all that much either. But it was a difficult experience for me. It really was. I didn't expect to fail. I had to get at least 98 right. I got maybe 90. So it's not that I didn't know anything. I don't know if it's partially due to, I've been in Connecticut for 2.5 years, and I studied my master's in Puerto Rico. The language is not a barrier as such, but there are certain things that I have to go over more to make them sink, so to speak, like grassroots. To me, grassroots is pulling up grass in the roots of the grass. And that's how it's translated in my head. So it was difficult. And another thing that I noticed was that I got a lot of community questions. I work in a mental health scenario, so I'm better equipped with diagnosis questions. It's like right off the bat, I get a diagnosis question. I can tell the difference between the schizophrenia, the schizophreniform, the schizoaffective, the borderline, the major depressive recurrent, and the whys, and that's what I do every day. So that is easier for me, so to a certain extent, than community, which I got a lot of community questions, hence the grassroots. So I really don't know what to do at this point. I'm just trying to relax and figure out what I'm going to do now, how to get back into testing if that's what I really choose to do. I don't know if I can hop on the horse like my sister says, but I don't know where to go from here, because I'm in the state of Connecticut now. So I have to figure out what's next.
So walk me through this. What did it actually feel like to fail?
What did it feel like to fail? Fail as in the testing?
Because you started off by saying I've never really failed at anything.
No, I've never really failed at anything that I've set my mind to. So to me, it was a shock.
And what was the biggest shock about it?
Failed.
Well, I'm only asking it because that's probably the step where you have to start is damn, I'm human and can fail.
And I went in, I felt not cocky, confident, but I felt like this is doable. But then the types of questions that I was getting, it was like being blindsided, because I didn't expect so much community. It was more community than anything else. Even the human development, diversity, I had very little of that. Although it said 40 questions, I don't know what happened there. Erickson, Piaget, all of them, down pat. I don't know.
So I think the biggest thing that you have to kind of mourn, and I'm going to use mourn because it is a loss. Where you thought you were going to be is now lost. And knowing that how you studied, it kind of was like a Tyson came in and knocked you, because the way that you studied the concepts was to memorize them. And the exam doesn't want you to memorize them. It wants you to be able to apply the concepts that are in there. And when they are present in a client situation, be able to utilize that to get to the answer.
But I didn't memorize. I tried to apply. It required more memory than application. That's what I found in my particular test.
Okay.
They had more recall than application.
Okay. So what do you think it would take for you to feel prepared and want to go back and retake the test if that's what you choose to do?
I don't know. I think I need different materials, because all I got were books. I don't know if I'm allowed to say what I used.
If you want to.
It was AATBS, and they had the practice tests, and I would do the practice tests, and I was getting 78s, I was getting 80s, 82s. When I go to the real thing, it was hard, that's not the word. It's not a matter of being hard or easy. That's not what I really mean. But
different.
Very, extremely. It was very soft. The practice tests were too soft.
And I'm not going to say this in a disrespectful way, but not every question is created equally.
Yeah.
So just
Definitely.
because someone's going to promise they'll give you 1,000+ practice questions does not mean those 1,000 are actually going to be beneficial. You may have been better off with 170 rigorous and difficult questions. So that way, when you walk into the exam, the preparation you put in wasn't like you practiced to do a 2-mile race and now you're running a marathon 26.2 miles.
There you go. I agree totally. I like yours. Yours are hard.
Thank you. And I think where you need to start is like kind of like let yourself off the hook because you did the best that you could with what you did and were told those materials were good for you. And then you were like, whoa, I wish someone would have actually been honest with me because these actually just put me on my butt. And now it's difficult for me to be on my butt because I thought I was training with the professional. And now I am in the amateur league level practice arena and I showed up to the wrong arena.
And the center was horrible. It was hot. And I come from the tropics. And for me to complain about hot, it was really hot. There was no, you didn't get a smile, a good afternoon, nothing. It was like, next. And then where I come from, we're like more towards like, we're geared towards being polite. So it's, I don't know, maybe it's just Connecticut and me.
It possibly could be. So I would again start with like letting the experience be what it was and know that it's likely going to be different in the future. So just forgiving yourself for that experience, resetting, taking the lessons that you can from that experience, but then propelling yourself on and saying that doesn't define who I was. It's just an event for who I am.
I'm willing to try again, but it's I have to start at square one. And the exam, yes, I had a harder exam because I needed, from what I understand, if I need less correct answers, it's a harder exam. That's what I was told.
So if it requires less questions to get it correct, it was a more difficult exam. Yes.
Not that I like it easy. I like it doable. I like to understand what I'm supposed to do in there and what's required of me. But then, I don't know. I don't want to stop studying because that's not what I'm not like that. I'm not built that way. I'm not built to give up. But it was a slap in the face because I prepared for one thing and got something totally different to what I had prepared for. Like I said, diagnoses, that's what I work with daily. So with the diagnoses questions, I did very well. And I know that I did very well because I see people with some of these diagnoses. So to be able to work with them, I have to know what it is that I'm working with. So I'm kind of more prepared for an LCSW, but I need the LMSW first.
I can't say it enough. You failing this exam doesn't define who you are. It's just an event that you went through. So just because you failed the exam doesn't mean that you're not competent. You were very competent and very talented and gifted. It's just this 170 question set that you got did not align with what you prepared for. And the next 170 likely will be better off because you're going to change the way that you're going to prepare because you know better. And when you know better, you do better.
I'm scarred, but that's okay.
And that's right. And that's the thing too, is you have to forgive yourself for the experience, take the lessons that you can and propel yourself further based on the increase of knowledge that you now have.
And I will be trying to work more with you through your videos and maybe sessions because I need not only the reading, but I also need the guidance, which is what I didn't have from that company. Because if I feel lost somewhere and I need guidance, who am I supposed to speak with? It's not the same thing as going to a class than doing this on your own without a study group, I did it by myself and I got 90. I did it all by myself. I had no help from anyone. I had no one to ask questions. I had no one to bounce ideas off of, nothing like that. So I think that's what I also need.
And I'm more than willing to walk through the process with you. Just reach out to me and I'll try to help in any way that I possibly can. But I always do suggest people start with like the videos and stuff, just to see if my style actually aligns with what you're trying to do. And then I can try to help take you to the next level and blow the questions apart.
Oh, believe me, I've seen a few of your videos. I just wasn't able to organize them as such, so I can use my knowledge and just extract from the videos, because I go by dates instead of just the name of the video. I'm weird that way. I like to be organized, and I'm weird that way, so I go by dates. That's me. I've been like that since I was a child, so it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks sometimes.
And like I said, I'll try my best to help in any way that I can. Just reach out and we'll try to go from there.
Okay, thanks.
It is my pleasure. Thanks for sharing your experience.
Anytime.
I've taken the exam twice, missed by 2 to 3 points each time.
Yeah, Phil, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. What's up?
Nothing. Yeah, so I've taken it twice. The first time I've taken it, I just kind of took it because our family was going through a whole bunch of stuff. I just had my wife just had her son and all this, and then her mom went through cancer, and I went through the University of Michigan study program or whatever, the study group. I went through theirs at that time, and it was just too much going on in my life. But at the same time, I was like, I'm going to take it, see what I do, how I do. And I missed it by like 3 points. And then again, just life kind of took over, and I kind of waited a while, spent a whole bunch of money on study exams, different study material out there, and other study groups that put time limits and how you study, when they give you the material, and how long you have to use that material. And it just never really worked out real well. And I came back, I took it again, and it was like 2 points that I missed it by. So
What was your process during both exam attempts? Like breaking down questions. How would you break down a question?
yeah, so that's what I'm coming to find out, especially watching a lot of your videos lately, and is I really didn't have a good process to breaking down that. I just went back through how I used to study for exams back in the day, because at the college there was no exam taking. It was mainly reports, so there was no preparation how to take an exam when you haven't taken one maybe since your like freshman year in college or something like that. I mean, I can't remember the last time I took an exam before that. So I went back to that old way of thinking, and that was I can look at stuff, and then like I picture it, and then I go when I take an exam, I can like visually see it. I can visual it in a book or in a chapter of a book, and that didn't work real well when you're trying to break down a question and real life kind of situations in that sense. So so that's where I kind of trying to learn that new step, I guess.
Okay. And from what you've said, you did like a cardinal sin that I just joke and say they're cardinal sins,
Yeah.
but you failed the test and thought it was something wrong with your comprehension. So you went and bought another program to teach you the secrets on what you needed to do. And you walked in and utilized the same technique that you did before and got the same results. So it's not that you don't know the material or you don't know how to take the exam. It's just we need to polish up and give you a little bit more tips on how to get that done. And especially since like you have like a photographic type memory. So being able to practice that technique and develop that routine, that is going to be a lot more helpful than let me memorize this other program's way of doing it and then mix it with this other one. And I always joke and say that when you mix two programs together, it's like a chemical reaction that can explode because your mind is not sure where you need to go.
Yeah, too. And I think it's sad to say this, but it's like I'm kind of hoping that, because I take it here in June, so I'm hoping like the test sites are set up the same way where they're going to limit an amount of people due to the whole COVID thing, because I was in the service for a while, so I deal with PTSD and things like that, and so I get anxieties when I go into rooms. I mean, it's very kind of dark. At least the test center I go to is very dark. There's at least 10 people in there, and you're trapped in a room, and so that anxiety is already building up, and then your back is to everybody. And so I'm always concerned that I'm always in a fear-based kind of thing, thinking there's somebody could end up coming behind me. So I deal with a lot of that stuff due to my military service on a continuous basis. So that's a little bit of a struggle too at times when I'm in the testing center.
Well, thank you for your service. And my next recommendation would be, can you get accommodations by the diagnosis of PTSD? So you can actually go to a doctor and they can fill out a form that says he does struggle with post-traumatic stress disorder, and they could possibly give you a private room with more time, if not just a private room, so that way you didn't have that constant fear of someone behind you.
Yeah, that's something I guess I could check into. I can try to see here beforehand and see if they can fit that in. If not, then I'm trying to kind of in a new process of thinking too. Is with that is something I've been dealing with, even especially during this time with COVID and being home more. Is looking at my life, and I wonder too if I kind of keep delaying the time I take the test. Because I've been going on like my 5th year since I've been been out of school. And I took the first one my first year within that time frame, and then I took it like again a couple years later. That I feel like it's because I don't really want to take it because I don't want to move past where I'm working. So I've been dealing with this, that it's time for me to move on from my place of employment, I guess, in some ways. And I think that has to do with, if I take my exam, that it's like a next level. I'm not doing the potential I can be at my job right now. It's kind of doing stuff that's way below than what I should be working on.
Okay. So how can you utilize that I'm not where I want to be to give you motivation to take the test?
Yeah. So that's where I guess I'm kind of at that's where I'm more motivated now. Right now, I'm more focused. I'm committing to, looking at my study routines and how I study more. Before like I said, I'm really good at recalling or like photographic memory. So I would just, I would take it about 2 to 3 weeks before the exam. I would start studying, and then I turn around the last week is when I would like push it hard. So now like I'm kind of I went out to like a month at least. I've been studying consistently off and on, but then it's like now this last month I'm really focused on it, and I'm making sure I set up timetables on how I study, and and that's working really well to kind of get that process down.
Are you afraid of failing?
Now, no, because I failed those twice and I've failed things before, so I'm not quite as much as afraid as failing. Maybe I guess in the sense is some disappointment in some ways. Because this is a whole different game. I spent 5 years in the military beforehand, and did really well, and that was already set up for you. You kind of know what you're going to do every day, and then now I'm in something where I have to build and grow on something. So I really focus on what I do, unless I'm, on everybody else, unless on myself. And so I feel like I'm going to let people down, I guess. So I guess a little bit of failure, afraid of failing, I guess.
Who would you be letting down if you failed?
I guess sometimes my family, because like I feel like I'm not moving maybe forward enough and fast enough or whatever. Like I should be, I guess I want to say it is, maybe making more money in my life than what I do. I feel like I guess I would, for what I do, I feel like I get paid more at, even like some of my interns I've had at the bachelor's level make more money than I do with a bachelor's degree right now than I do at the nonprofit I work at. So that was some of the things that I feel like I'm not achieving in growth and stuff like that where I'm at.
So my biggest recommendation right now is to take the butt kicking shoes off and start whipping out the building blocks to give yourself steps to get up, because there's a lot of times where we'll compare ourselves to other people and then not feel like we're measuring up, or this is where I could see myself going if this would have been happened 5 years ago, so sitting down and saying like, I'm okay with where I'm at because I'm better prepared and have the knowledge that I didn't have before. And it doesn't mean that I haven't achieved myself, because I haven't lost anything in the last 5 years, because I am still gaining and building knowledge. So that way, when I do pass my test, I'm going to like slingshot to where you would have been any time before, because you'd still have the experience that you gain in that time.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, that's definitely, I think, the mindset that I've been, this last, I guess, month or so has been more focused on that. Is really looking at, not the comparing, but, trying to look at how do I achieve where I want to go, and stop, beating myself up for not doing as well as I have, or, holding myself back is really what I'm doing, instead of blaming everybody else. Blaming where I work at is holding me back, but it's more or less I've been holding myself back because of my own, whatever reason it is, whatever excuse I want to give myself to that day or whatever. So.
And that's okay, man. It's very difficult to look at yourself and say, I haven't been treating myself well, or I haven't been giving myself credit for what I have been doing, because how is it that I took the test and then 5 years later, I'm still motivated and excited to get that job done?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's, I appreciate it. Like if somebody just wrote in the comments, yeah, thanks for asking the hard questions. Sometimes we look past those, where we're really at in our mindsets at the time. So definitely thank you for asking those questions.
It's my pleasure, and continue doing that. And I always tell people, like, the week before the exam is going to define everything that you've been doing up to this point.
Yeah. I had a couple other questions in there. I just kind of ask real quick because I'm gonna have to get off here to
Go ahead, man. What do you got? What do you got?
The other question is, I guess you kind of answered the one was, I like have so much study material, and I think you kind of answered that earlier a little bit, is like, how do you go through that study material and how do you look at that? Because I feel like, it's like you said, I feel like I have I know the stuff, I know the content, so I get bored by looking at it. It doesn't intrigue me or motivate me to continue to visualize it when I feel like I know a lot of that material when I'm looking over it or reading it, and I guess that's kind of where I'm at. I don't know how to process the actual studying part of it, I guess.
How do you learn? What's your learning style?
I like to act. I guess I like to be in the process of doing the work, and I guess movements. I'm really big in. I like to move. I like to learn in that concept. I like to listening. So I guess that's why I like watching your videos. That's helped me out a lot. This stuff as podcast, things like that's kind of what helps me learn. But sitting there reading is not very helpful for me. Like that's where I struggle. And
Okay. So my biggest challenge for you right now is to look at all the materials that you have, not to memorize them, but look through it and say, is this explaining it in the way that's going to be helpful for me? And if not, set it to the side and then keep going and say, am I okay with what I have right now? And if you have things that you set to the side that you're like, darn, this explains it in a helpful way, but not in a way that would make sense to me, can I make it make sense with the information that I have right now? So if you're an auditory learner and need to hear it, whip out your phone, record you saying that information. So now that you have an audio file that's teaching you, and you have to get outside of yourself of, wow, I don't like hearing myself talk. Well, do you like passing the exam, or do you like using learning styles that don't work for you? So if that's the thing, so record yourself. And then if you're like, yo, I don't really think this information would be better auditory, how about I make it into a chart that could explain it? Because that's a way to utilize movement or give yourself examples of the concepts or the techniques or the processes that would make sense to you. So I'll look through everything that you have and see what makes sense to you with the way that it's displayed. And if it doesn't, set it to the side. You can give it away. You can burn it. You can do anything, but make sure you're only surrounded by the things that are building you up, not being like a backpack of things. Because when you take things that aren't useful out of the backpack, you're able to move and get quicker things done. So that's how I would suggest doing that, is analyzing, assessing what you have, setting aside what doesn't work for you, and then continuing on.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's probably something I didn't think of, that creative way of recording myself to do it. So yeah, I'll probably try that out then.
Awesome. And did you have another question you said?
No, I guess I'm good. I think I answered that. I think you've answered all of it, or other people have too. So, but I guess I'm gonna have to get off here, but thank you again, and I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Awesome. And take care of yourself. And if you have any other questions that you can think of, just reach out to me. Okay.
All right, no problem, Phil. Thanks.